There we go.
Yeah, we're good. Have fun. Yes. 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 Let me make that announcement. Thank you.
So again, for this project number 6, you can somewhat ignore the contralateral. It's a little bit more rounded on the contralateral. Just give it some more detail as far as the cuspal, the cusp ridges and the cusp tip, so they can look a little bit more ideal and less warm. We're going to kind of, for just this project, ignore the contralateral. And then faculty upload the assignments one more time, so everyone knows where they're supposed to be. So if you're in a pod right now, just take a look and see who the faculty is that's in your section, and then I'll switch back to the live Waxo. Oh, and for those of you who have Dr. Felly right now, he's the one doing the live Waxo, so feel free to go to Dr. Estalia or Dr. Schlock, they'll be the closest to you. We're going to swap over one more time, take a look at the groups for today. So just write down what time you're going, and Dr. Tetzel will start calling you back soon.
Group 1 to 2th ID, please. Group 1.
Also, one quick announcement, if you walk your lockers that are in B30 in the back, you'll notice the UB alumni little circle, that section that's right there. If you look on the one wall, your class pictures and like your bios are all up now. So that was just printed out, so you're officially down here.
Yeah.
I feel like now that I'm done, this is like what I was trying to accomplish.
All right, so can you hear me? You can hear me talk? Anyone? Yeah. Okay. So for now that this is done, number 6, I'm gonna just show you a couple things for evaluation purposes, and then I'm gonna do one other step over again, just so you can hear me talk about it. But when you look at it from the facial, you should be able to see that this facial bulge that a canine has, it's easy to place it because it lines up directly with the canine bulge that you would notice. So that'll essentially run all the way straight down to the incisal edge, or to this point that we have here. And then as you look at it from the facial also, you'll see a little bit of a depression here on the distal. And then you can also turn it to the incisal view to see the bulge. You see your facial line angle here, and then also this distal impression, which isn't as subtle on the Morovision as it is for real. But something that might help you with your wax ups, I'm just going to get rid of all of this wax here. So if you can imagine that there's no wax on the facial of this tooth, you can just start building your wax from the margin. Get all of your wax in so that way you have a nice clean margin. And then just continue stacking your wax following this line from this bulge all the way down to the incisal edge. Just keep stacking your wax. Don't let it cool off. Try to keep it hot so that way you don't get layers. Literally just keep stacking wax all the way from the bulge down to where the incisal edge is going to be. Can add a little bit directly to the edge. And then you know where your point is going to be, where that cusp is going to be. So once you've got that layered on, then you need to just check your height of contour. So if we turn it to the side, we can see that the canine is a little flat. Following where the height of contour should be from the middle up to the gingiva, and you just add wax just in that area. And if you notice how I'm burying the tip of the wax pen, it's melting everything around it. So I'm just adding wax to my height of contour here. And I'm keeping the tip in the wax so you can see that without me even needing to touch an instrument, it's pretty smooth. So I'll check it again, it's looking pretty good. So maybe I'll add just a touch more. And this time I'll drag it down to blend it in with the tip here. And then while keeping your wax pen in, you can smooth the wax into a good transition. So without even touching the Hollenbach, we have pretty good contours, pretty good blending. And then from this point, the first thing that I like to do is go all the way up to the gingiva and clean that margin off. So that way you have a beautiful transition from plastic to wax. That's the first thing that sticks out when we look at it. So make sure that that's nice. Then you can come to this distal depression here and start working that in. Again, that's going to line right up with this line here. So we're just getting behind that bulge and just gently carving it out a little bit. And you can evaluate that from the facial. And from the incisal. You should see a very apparent line that follows the line angle of the bulge up. Transition it a little nicer. Then you can flip over to the mesial aspect of the tooth. And this isn't a depression, it's just more of a flatness. If you look at the canine over here, when you look straight on, you can see this line angle running here. So to accomplish that, we can bury our Hollenbach a little bit into the embrasure to flatten it out ever so gently, just a light pressure. Then flip over to the facial and carve that in a little bit. So then when we look at it from the facial straight on, you can see where I've carved in the flatness, and then it transitions, and right here is my line angle. It would help if I had it in the right place. Smoothing that in. Getting this depression. Check your height of contour, so I'm a little bulky on the incisal area. So knowing that it needs to curve over, I'm not going to hold my Hollenbach straight. I'm going to hold it slightly curved, so I'm taking away from the incisal aspect. And then work my way up through the bulge. Down to the incisal edge. Remember that the distal is longer than the mesial, so just make sure that this back here is running into the cusp tip. Then you can do the same thing on the mesial. Clean up the edge. Clean up that incisal embrasure a little bit. Smoothing it back over. Go flip to the lingual where we added. We're going to get that off so we have a nice plastic to wax transition. Also realizing that there's depressions on the lingual, so we want to try to follow those as much as possible. And one thing that I'm doing, like when I'm cleaning this margin up here, I'm resting my instrument on the plastic. So I'm on the plastic side of this tooth, and I'm using the plastic as my guide to just take away enough wax to get a good transition. Same thing on the lingual. Most of your instrument should be resting on plastic, and then you're just gently taking away the wax that it hits. I don't really like how rounded this is back here, so we can adjust that a little bit. Smooth this distal depression a little bit because it looks a little choppy. So this mesial aspect here of the cusp, don't really like. Something kind of strange going on here. So you can just line up the angle that you want it to be, and just smooth up a little bit. Then also it's a little bulbous at the incisal edge. So we're gonna refine that height of contour. And we have a tooth. So evaluate it from the incisal, see our height of contour is pretty much where we want it to be. Look from the mesial. My line angle in here is clinically not bad, but through the Mora vision you can see literally everything. So I mean, I would try to smooth it, but I can't really see it with the naked eye, so I wouldn't be concerned about it. But you can smooth it nonetheless. So when you look at it straight on from the mesial aspect, you should be able to see the line angle, which we see. And as you start turning it, we can already see the flatness on the facial into the bulge. And I can already start to see that distal impression as we're turning it. And as it's going around, it all lines up perfectly with this buccal bulge. And runs straight down through the tip. And then on the lingual, like I was saying earlier, using the plastic as your guide, just remove wax. Trying to keep those same two depressions. Polish it up a little bit. And that's it. If you have any questions about any of these steps, feel free to come up. And I also did this very fast on purpose for you to see that once you know the anatomy of the tooth and how to use your wax pen, these things can go very quickly and very efficiently. If you're spending an excess amount of time on it, you're probably taking away good things that you've already done and forcing yourself to have to redo.